Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, we're 9 minutes behind time. Sorry about that. We'll just start now. So welcome, everyone. Welcome. My name is Blessing Azubike. I'm Senior Program Manager here at the Creative Economy Practice at CC Hub. Welcome to our event, Unveiling Africa's Narrative, Harnessing Innovation, Media, and Technology for Positive Storytelling. Welcome. So we'll just get right to it. The conversation will kick off now. I'm just going to introduce our speakers. We have one speaker who is not here, but we'll kick off with the other speakers. A round of applause for yourselves, please. Okay. So I'm just going to call up to the stage our first speaker, Malik Afebwa. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so Malik is a filmmaker, an artist, and a designer. He's popular for his outside-the-box thinking approach, applying AI technology in the field of arts. And in January 2023, he went viral and received widespread media attention globally after he shared images on social media platforms titled The Elder Series, where he depicted seniors on a fashion runway draped in stylish and colorful clothes using AI. While receiving praise for his portrayal of elderly people in positive light using AI, he also received some criticism on the negative impact of AI on the arts, as AI is deemed to kill off human creativity and skills. We will talk about that during the conversation. Afebwa's artwork, however, challenged the common stereotype and perception of aged people in modern society. Rousing round of applause for Malik, please. You're welcome, Malik. All right, next we have Ruth Zachary. She's editor-in-chief at Zikoko. She's also representing Big Cabal Media. They are the owners of Tech Cabal and Zikoko. How many of you know Tech Cabal? How many of you know Zikoko? All right. Ruth is the editor-in-chief, as I said, at Zikoko, a publication of Big Cabal Media. She's a creator with years of experience in media and traditional publishing. She guides a team of creators curating youth culture through delightful content for Nigerians worldwide. A rousing round of applause for Ruth. And then we have finally, we have Ifeoluwa Oshunkoya, who is an XR developer and creative technologist. He's also going to be representing Emisi 3D on this panel conversation. Emisi 3D they are partners for the XR experiences that you all had today. So Ifeoluwa is a creative technologist, XR and 3D environment artist, and he's based in the cities of Lagos and Ibadan. His works revolve around innovation, immersion, space, and visual storytelling, using whatever tool he has at hand. He's a constant source of inspiration. For Ifeoluwa is the bustle of the city and the tension between the past and the future. He is the 2023 Gothi Institute Studio Quantum Artist in Residence for Lagos and Dublin, and the Unity VR developer and project manager for the award-winning We Speak Their Names in Hushed Tones at the 2022 IDFA Doc Lab Forum. Ife has also participated in various workshops and competitions, including the 2023 Electric South and Meta-sponsored Africa XR Realities Lab, and is a two-time winner at Meta-organized Spark AR competitions. A rousing round of applause for Ifeoluwa. And our final speaker, Oluwatosin Ajibola, who is the founder of Olori Supergirl Media and convener of the New Media Conference. She's an award-winning new media entrepreneur, author, and brand influencer. She's the founder of leading lifestyle and entertainment website, olorisupergirl.com, and most recently, the creator of Healthy Living with Tosin, one of the early adopters in the Nigerian social media space. Tosin has also founded Aloe White Media, a digital marketing subsidiary of Olori Supergirl Limited. Through the Olori Supergirl brand, Tosin has also championed the New Media Conference, an annual gathering of key stakeholders with the aim of improving marketing and advertising standards in the Nigerian online and digital media space, which has been held annually since May 2015. A special Nairobi edition of the New Media Conference was held in 2017, and New Media School Debate. She has also participated as an attendee at the BET Awards in 2016, Social Media Week Lagos, and Social Media Marketing World Conference in San Diego, California in 2018 and 2019. A rousing round of applause for Tosin. All right. So before we kick off this conversation, ideally what this conversation is about is, you know, the power of innovation, media, and technology for storytelling. What are the narratives that go out of Africa, about Africa? What do people think about us? We see all sorts of ridiculous videos online. You know, some people tell you Africa is a country. Some people ask questions like, do you have power? You have light? Do you guys have internet? You know, so when you Google things like African children, what are the sort of images that come up? You know, what's the representation of Africa? And how can we, as young people, as storytellers, filmmakers, you know, everyone now, like I like to say, is that everyone is a content producer. You don't have to be a blogger to be one. So long as you're on social media, you have a social media account, you have a role to play. So we're having these conversations about intentional content generation, content making, and how that contributes to the narrative that goes out of Africa. But before we start, Malik is going to give us a little presentation, and then we'll kick off the conversation. Is Bash in the room? So while we're getting that set up, how many of you are familiar with Malik's work that went viral? Did any of you know about the Elder series, the fashion show for older people that trended and was on CNN, BBC? Anyone? So that's Malik's work. So he's going to be talking to us briefly about that. Bash, please, can we have the video first?
Okay, it's good to be here today. Thank you for the invite with this great panelist. You know, I won't take too much of a time. I will just try and breeze through what I want to just talk about, the inception of Before the Elder series. It's literally about intentional storytelling, and the backbone of everything I do is storytelling. And that saying that is intentional storytelling. I'm a history buff. I like to look at where I'm from in terms of where we are as Black people, as Africans, and where we're going in the future. So to me, history informs that. And so without further ado, I won't take too much of the time. If we know about Hollywood everything they do in Hollywood is intentional when it comes to storytelling, when it comes to content creation. Since when it started, from fashion to culture to how we talk, how we speak, how we act. If anybody is as old as me here, you would know House Party Part 1, I think it was 1991 or whatever it was released. And I remember back then I was trying to, when I had hair, I'm not married now, but I was trying to make my hair like that. So that was kind of the influence I had as a very young kid. But moving forward, we've had fashion cultures, trends change over the years, and that's what Hollywood does. And today we have many different agendas to try to put towards, and all that is done through content creation and storytelling. But while saying that, so for some reason this is going higher or lower, it's important for us to understand that it's a two-way streak. It's important for us to know that, yes, they reflect these cultures and they portray all these things, but they always reflect what they see. But what they do is mostly exaggerated and used for a particular agenda. It's not just for entertainment. There's always a reason behind what they do. So the problem is, in Africa, the kind of things that make the news are always bad news. And you ask yourself, why is it always bad news? Is it that bad news sells, or is it that that's all we have? But there's a reason behind that as well. If you look at the inception of photography in Africa, photography started in Ghana in 1880, and before moving to Nigeria in 1896. But the problem about photography was it was in the hands of the colonial masters. So that meant they were dictating how we would look, and for them it was mostly experiment. They wanted to see what we look like, and pictures were taken as specimens, not as people. And part of that agenda was to make them the colonial masters and us being suppressed. And that has been from the past. So now the problem that we've been facing with that is it has not changed. So this is Benin City in 1909, and this is meant to be a chief in a village that are taking this picture like a prisoner. This is Delta State 1909 as well, sorry, Edo State 1909 as well. And there is a case study on this online, I'll probably share the link. What they're pretty much talking about is she's meant to be an important person in her village, in her mind. So she says, so I took a picture of her, and literally they're studying us, All this is in the history books that we don't have in school, by the way. So this is how we've been portrayed, for a very long time. But the problem about this is, what have we done about it? We've done nothing about it, and that's the reason why today, 2023, you go to a stock website, and you type in African kids, you're going to still see African kids look like this, look impoverished, look like they're, begging for money and all of that. This is 2023, so 3 days ago, when I was looking for these images to see. And why? Because we're not telling intentional stories. So for us to combat this and try and fight this, is that we need to be intentional in what we're doing. So where this has trickled down into now is the AI softwares. The AI softwares are now trained, because they're trained on multiple data. And all this data are what they find online and how we're being represented. Now, when you go on the AI software like Midjourney and you type in certain things like African boy, black boy, you get two different things. If you type African boy, you see an African kid that looks, slightly impoverished, or a street kid. If you type black boy, you see a black American. African boy and black boy, what's the difference, please? We're all black people. So why is that? It's the training. If you type in African kids in the city, you see kids begging for food. This is 2023 Midjourney software, and that's what it's been trained on. So how did I even get here in the first place? Okay, I'm a storyteller, and what I do is in the works of TV commercials, film, TV shows, and extended reality. One of my works is probably showing there as well. So within this space, I like to tell stories, but apart from making money and doing it as a career or whatever, I like to be intentional with the kind of story that I tell. To portray where I'm from, and to say, to try and counter what the media says about us as black people, as Africans. And by doing that, I like to find many different means of expression. So that's using technology, using whatever I can find to tell those stories. I don't box myself in it. So when I was trying to create the Elder series, these are the type of images I was getting at first. And the prompting means the key was to put in an AI thing to get the things out. The prompt I put for this was an affluent African in Agbada. How is an affluent African in Agbada? So that was a problem for me, and I started to wonder why. What's the problem? Like, what's going on? Sorry. Like, what is going on really? And that's when I started doing my research. And because yes, I look for images on the AI, on the stock website, and I find generic images, I find things that I'm misrepresenting. But I never really understood why. I never really got in depth until I started doing that research. And I said, you know what, I need to change something about this. And the only way I could do that is to train the neural network to my own data set. So what I did was literally train it to say, we're not slaves, this is how we look, this is how we dress, put the right kinds of data, put the right kinds of pictures, counter the images, that were there. And let me tell you how bad the bias is. If you put 150 prompts, that has to be HIV, 100 of those prompts are black people. If you put, you're trying to create a black doctor treating a white kid or a white patient, you would never get it. You always get a white doctor treating a black kid. Why is that? Because of what has been trained on. So the software can't even imagine those scenarios. So these are the things that we have to put intentional about it. So after doing all of that, from where we saw, this is where we got to, from all the trainings that I did, that when I put it out there, it did, and it went viral. So that has actually inspired many other organizations, fashion shows, and all that. This was a real fashion show that we did in Amsterdam 4 months or 3 months ago. And after that, I've been seeing many other fashion shows, including the elderly people, because of how powerful that project was. And yeah. So what I'll end with is just create, but be intentional about it. So I don't take too much of your time.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Malik. By the way, Malik also has some PCs here. After the event, you can come forward, look at them, and then there are barcodes. Once you scan those barcodes, you get more information about the works. Thank you so much. I think, Malik, you've helped us kick off this conversation the right way. So Ruth, let me come to you. With the work that Zikoko and Tech About does, yeah, I mean, you're media organizations. You're media organizations, and this is the work that you're set up to do, right? Storytelling, news reporting, right? I want to connect it to the point that Malik tried to make, right? With all the work that Malik was doing, you would wonder, why is he so interested in doing this? Who sent him to do this work, right? So do you think that, content production, storytelling, do you think it's the job of somebody or an organization? Do you think that there's a definition for who has to do the work? If Africa has negative perception out there, it's not my work, it's not my fault, So what would you say about that in connection to how Malik explained and how he went ahead to do the work?
Okay, I think that's a very interesting question. How would I answer this? I would say, well, yeah, there are professions and I would say industries that have made it their work to, tell these stories, to create these narratives. But on some level, I mean, it's a global community now, and a lot of us are online. And what tends to happen is that we talk about our lives. In some way, there is storytelling in all of those experiences being shared. And, spaces, roundtable spaces like Twitter or Instagram are places where people can actually, just by talking about their lives, add this narrative. So, yeah, an answer is, it's not really, there are some jobs, there are some spaces where there are jobs, but anyone can be a part of that narrative because, I mean, it's our stories.
Okay, let me come to you, Tosin. Yeah, so what role would you say that media plays in changing the negative perception or the perception of Africa in general on a global scale? What role would you say that media has to play in that?
Hello, okay, awesome. So is it related to Malik's presentation? Okay. Okay, because when you asked the question, have you seen any of his works? And I, raised my hands up. I would say well done for that project because it went viral. And, hearing that this is also from a Nigerian is also inspiring and also thank you for putting your creativity and sharing it with the world out there. In the line of what we do in media, the first thing is you are, as a media organization, you're responsible in putting, the good stories out there or positive stories out there. They say bad story sells. When it comes to publications or when it comes to public relations, PR, they won't say bad PR sells. And bad stories spread faster before the good stories. In the line of our work, sometimes we find it difficult to even break to that positive line to get the truth or to get the story out there. The quote. I'll quickly take it back to a story we uncovered in 2016. It was about a school year in Yaba, and the whole story didn't just come out from a lie. It came with facts. It came with proof. It came with everything. We even did our own due diligence before we even published the first story. But the backlash we got, because it affected the school that has been in existence for years and all of that, we got affected, and that came with threat, came with a lot of things. And why? Because we were doing our job. We talked about a story, an impending issue that was happening in a secondary school here in Lagos, and what we got in response was, you guys are lying, when they put the tag or the word out there, bloggers are lying, or they're using it for clickbait and all of that. So that really affected us, because that story didn't just happen, or the person who reported the story to us, we didn't just say, because this person said this about this particular person or teacher, we decided to now publish it. So we did our own due diligence, but at the end of the day, it was true, but they didn't want to admit it was true, and all of that. So in this case, or in this line, it's a thing that we face, regularly. Sometimes you just need to hold your ground, when you are telling the truth out there in the media.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. Malik, I will start with you and then we'll take it round. So what do you think is the balance, should be the balance between authenticity and trying to represent positive storytelling, right? What should be the balance between being authentic? Are these things really happening in Africa? And if they're happening, I should be seeing, these stories. Did these things happen? Are they happening? Or so what's the balance between authenticity and trying to represent Africa positively? So while you were working on your series, the different series that you've worked on, did you ever find yourself at that crossroads where you're struggling between being authentically African, telling authentic African stories, or trying to represent us in better light?
I'll use my experience as an example. Like 5 or so years ago, I used to go by this quote that says, "An artist's job is to reflect, all of that." So I used to do that. I used to shoot slow motion videos about Lagos that you see. I'll go to Lagos Island, Lagos things, and I'll make what is looking kind of distressing or horrible things look beautiful kind of thing. I used to find beauty in it, but I was filming low-class places that, you see kids without slippers. You just see Nigeria in a bad way, but you find yourself enjoying the video. I was doing that because I was looking for, a good in it, but now I realized I'm also showing just a side of Nigeria, and I realized that was mostly my experiences around where I was as well. And as much as I want to reflect everything that is going on, is always going to be there. We need to inspire, we need to aspire for greater things and bigger things. How do we aspire or inspire? Is by visually seeing these things that is possible. How can you make it possible if you don't even see it or create it? So that's why I switched from, okay, rather than doing this, I just set up an organization called CELS. It means Causes, Effect, Loopholes, and Solutions, where we do that. We find the problem, we do the documentary, but it's not just for entertainment's sake. We find the loopholes, find the solutions, and we check back all of that. While that is working, let me reflect a better side, something more aspirational. So I don't want to show the world that Nigeria is bad and this is what we're doing about it. No, I want to show the world that Nigeria has potential and is good, even while the bad things are happening. That's how I balance both of it. Yeah.
Okay. So next, Ruth, over
Yeah.
to you.
Okay.
So, still on that same comment.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's an intentionality with the work that Zikoko and Tech About does? Is there an intentionality? So do you say that this is what we want to represent, this is what we will show, or do you say, well, this is Africa, so we tell the stories?
Oh yeah, definitely. So the sales approach, very interesting. I really like that. That creating solutions even where there are problems. A really useful way for balance. I would say with Zikoko and Tekaba, we have, interestingly, very similar but also very different problems. Now, at Zikoko, I would use, again, a scenario as an example. When I was getting hired in one of my final interviews, I had been asked, so I've been at Zikoko for 3 years. I'd been asked, what's something you would add to, the variety of stories that Zikoko tells? And I said, I want to read more stories about grief because it's part of the human experience. And if you say you're covering stories that affect Nigerians in ways that, they can approach or engage with, then grief is an important part of that. I was very much in my teenage depression era, so those were the things that I was enjoying in that time. And someone on the call said, our mantra is literally come for the fun. Where is the fun in grief, ma'am? And that's just to, show how very much imbibed in our culture or the culture of BCM that we make sure that we tell stories that are actually delightful. Now, we've sort of refined that mantra, especially for Zikoko, to mean what we do is that we delight the audience. And the audience in this scenario are Nigerians and Africans. It is very important to us that we cover stories that are delightful. And the reason is very similar to his, right? Which is that on one hand, bad PR, bad stories sell. They are widespread, they go really far. But what it then does is that you write one bad story and you write 5 good ones, and no one sees the 5 good ones. And so you have to intentionally do that work of going, okay, how many good stories, and how do I make sure with all the resources that I have to make sure those good stories are out there and are just as visible? And so what's a useful balance for us in-house? When we have to do a story, like the one you guys covered, when you have to do stories like that, what does it mean for other stories you've written? What does it mean? How do you cover it? What are the steps, that you take to make sure it's also received in a way that doesn't go against, what we've said we're doing? So I would say it's constantly a conversation. It's constantly being in the back room and identifying these points and reiterating it, because sometimes you can also forget. It gets very easy to just go, bad things are happening here, bad things are happening here. Okay, maybe we're covering bad things this week, but you need to intentionally always look out for the good and expand, put as much exposure on that as possible.
Thanks. Ifeoluwa, yes, when we come to you, we sort of shift away from media, even though not totally, right? And we focus more on technology. So with the work that you do, let me ask you, what would you say is the role of technology in all of these things that we're talking about? Positive storytelling, shifting narratives, putting Africa in better light. What's the role of technology and innovation? Is there some power there? Or, let's talk about that.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Nice to be here. I think it comes first from the perspective or the knowledge that Nigeria and Africa in general is not the worst place in the world, right? What I mean is that, Kissinger died today, and he was an architect of some of the worst atrocities, that America has ever committed. But everyone wants to go to America. And why is that? Because there is a narrative with them, the American dream, the freedom-loving country and all like that. And that's because of Hollywood and all like that. So they have that narrative, even with the backlog of the amount of crimes they've committed as a country. So it's going from the fact, okay, we're not the worst people in the world, so how can we then leverage technology and innovation to actually tell positive things about ourselves? For instance, virtual reality has the power to put you in another person's shoes. It has the power to give empathy. And so it has the power to actually allow you as a storyteller to tell stories that people can feel that they are this person, and they experience it as in a first-person experience. It gets that innovation makes you feel very connected to these stories, and the ideas and the stereotypes begin to get less and less less visible. Also, when it comes to innovation, right, it's how you also, how do I put it? Let's say storytelling has many aspects, kind of like film, right? There are characters, there's a stage, there's light and all like that. So it's how do you leverage each of those individual pieces, you know, in technology, in virtual reality and augmented reality to actually, you know, to tell the stories. To how do you set the stage? How do you, for instance, you talk about a Nigerian person, a Nigerian home. How do you set the home? Do you put that on the, you know, in the virtual space on the ground because you want to make it feel like, oh, people are suffering here and all like that, because you want to perpetuate a narrative and all like that. So it's about being intentional, like Malik said, about the individual pieces that are needed for, you know, for you're telling the story, you understand, and making it intentional, still positive stories.
Great. So we have a lot of young people in the room, right? And like I always say, everybody is a content person because you are on social media. Tosin, you started with Olori Supergirl years ago, right? And with the new media conference, you're basically championing new media, right? So what would you say, you know, is the role? Because I feel like social media can be both a blessing and a curse. Yeah, so what would you say is the power? I think we need to be aware of what that power is. Is social media really powerful in storytelling and representation? And what are the pitfalls to avoid, you know, if we say that, okay, we want to use this thing as a tool for good? You know, what are the pitfalls to avoid on social media?
Awesome. All right. So one of the first thing anyone needs, I mean, for everyone who's on social media, basically is to be authentic. One of the questions that I've answered in my 13 years journey in media is, how did you come up with the name Olori Supergirl? And for those who are not Yoruba, Olori means queen. The Supergirl came from a cartoon character, Superman. And that was how I gave my name, myself, Olori Supergirl. And what does it mean to me? It means a lot to me. I see myself as royalty, number one, hence the Olori. Then the super girl aspect is from my creativity, from the power that I have. And if you asked me, does this name make sense 13 years ago, I would have said, no, this is trash. But this name has actually gotten me to where I am today, sitting with you guys, talking to you all, and also opened local and international doors for me. Built a business and built other things out of it. Your authentic self is very important. You know, I would say maybe growing up for a lot of people, they find it difficult to even find their purpose in their teenage years. You know, and then when they get to, they're closer to 18, 19, 20, 21, they begin to ask themselves, what am I doing in my life? Because this other person is doing something with their lives. So the whole essence of this is for you to sit with yourself and ask yourself personal questions, like you're sitting with yourself, like it's a mirror, and ask yourself questions. What do you want to do? What impact or what's the purpose on this earth? What are the things that you want to fulfill and all? And that's just for you personally. Now, bringing it to social media, it's saturated. Everybody is trying to be the next Kim Kardashian, or everyone is trying to be the next Elon Musk, you know, and it's either you are, what's that word again? It's either you join them or what's that? If you can't beat them, you join them, you know, and that is where confusion comes into place. So you begin to compare yourself with this other person based on either followership or the way the page is looking beautiful or the cost of items or gadgets. It could be anything And that can just disrupt your path into even finding yourself or even getting to your own purpose and all. But this still takes us back to your purpose. If you don't do the first assignment, you cannot find fulfillment, even if you bring everything to social media. You get distracted, you get so worried, you begin to compare yourself, thinking that you're not doing so well for yourself. And has this affected me also? Yes, it has several times, and I'll keep asking myself questions. And these are some of the pitfalls, that one would find themselves in at the end of the day. But what you can always go back to your journal or a diary, if you keep one, and always, go back to those notes you took, at the point where you were actually finding yourself, then you begin to understand your purpose on the reason why you're even sharing your story using social media. So being authentic is still the key thing, honestly. Being authentic and also telling your own, true story. Like I said, people would always still ask me why the name Oluresopa Girl, and the story has just been the same way it was 2008, 2009, when I gave myself that name, and I didn't even have an idea of what it was, but I knew what it meant to me, and that is who I represent.
Fantastic. So we've heard that over and over again. Clap if you want to clap, please go ahead. So we've heard that word or phrase or term, over and over again, authenticity. So let's take it to technology. With AI, right, you had liberty to explore, and lose yourself, right? So how does that tie in authenticity, being true to yourself, and then having this tool that gives you the liberty to explore and tell lies? You're able to, You're able to manipulate images to look like whatever it is you assume, you imagine, you dream. So how do we, within the four walls of innovation and technology, still be authentic and true?
Okay, I think the best way to answer this is every technology has an ethical and unethical side. It's largely based on the user. And when you look at technology as a tool alone, not as a replacement for anything, you use it as a tool alone. For instance, this is the first time in history that we have the chance to control and change certain things. So the AI softwares, for instance, now is trained on multiple data. It's called scrubbing all around the world, where it's trained on data that is not even, no permission, it's just taking it. But the chance we have is to actually train it to what we really want it. So you could either create everything that exists, copy of someone's work, or you could create something that's entirely new. That's the chance that we have. So that makes it authentic in terms of the user itself. So if you were a creator, an artist, a writer, or anything, and you wanted to create something that was based on your own uniqueness, you have to train it to understand how you work. So that means whatever you're creating afterwards is going to be based off of your own training. That means it's no longer getting data off, but it's based out of it. That's very possible as well. But if you're using it just to, for misinformation, disinformation, then that's the rabbit hole that you don't want to go into. It's very easy. You can create the Pope in a puffer jacket, literally create whatever you want to do to misinform, but that's the user. But if you're looking at it as a solution-based thing, what solution can I create with this thing? How can I use this to enhance my work? How can I bridge the time? How can I inspire myself to create or learn something new? That's another different ballgame. And I had to learn that as well because, to me, it was just experimental. But at the end of the day, I'm a businessman and I'm a creator. I work for brands. If I wanted to attract any big brand, I need to find ways to be unique about it. Today, I've done stuff for major brands like Marvel Studios, IBM, Cadbury, but I wouldn't be able to do that if my work was something you could find on any AI software. It had to be unique, and that means no one can just go and create it except you're creating it from my work. Then that's a copy, So I understood that power and I harnessed it. So that way you could keep your creativity but enhance it with AI. Yeah.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say after all of that. But I guess, yeah, AI is a tool, and I could say that some ways we currently use it is usually a lot more process-based. The opportunity to use it for actual content, to create stuff. But I know that a lot more, in the way that we currently use it, it's a lot more process-based. It's around our systems. It's around making the work easier. So you still come into it with your individual ideas, but how do you make it better? And so AI becomes that tool. And even when I say processes, it gets into actually how the operations of the company works, because Notion AI can enhance your systems. Grammarly helps your grammar gets better. Otter, you use it for transcribing your work. So there are different ways that AI comes into play. And as long as you take it as a tool to enhance something, I mean, you could create original work as well, but for now, for us, that's actually how it plays it.
I think it's going to be about you being open to your environment, being open to your context, being open to sampling, what you have around you. For instance, you have the ability to, you've got the heritage around you, you've got things around you. You're able to, photogrammetry, for instance, is the way of actually being able to generate 3D models. And so let's say I'm here, I see you here, and I can just take pictures of you, or pictures of her, and I generate a 3D model of her. And that's something authentic because you can't get it anywhere else. So it comes like things like your heritage, things of sculptures, things that are around you that you think you're fascinated by. Those are authentic things, that can actually bring and digitize and all like that. When it comes to like your soundscape, things that you can actually draw from the physical world back into the digital, because the virtual world I see it as let's call it a layer above, not a layer above, or a counter layer to the real world. So you are basically God, in the virtual world. And so it's the onus is on you to actually bring that into it. I kind of would take it like, I'll show you how we'll talk about the idea of the curator, whereby the curator is actually the person who is a myth maker, is the person who gets different objects and creates a myth around those objects, and then, create a story. So you as a storyteller in the virtual world, and even with technology, you are actually a myth maker also. So it's for you to actually create myth and stories from those things, and leverage them for the authenticity they bring with it to the stories. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Tosin, how can we start to, like I said, we have a lot of young people in the room, and I think a lot of them are from the School of Media at the Pan Atlantic University.
I'm actually I'm alumni.
Oh,
saw the tag. I was looking. I was like, oh, that's my.
Yeah.
Alumni.
So how can we start to encourage young people to be intentional storytellers? How can we start to encourage them to do the work that is not specifically meant for one person, like we discussed earlier when Malik said, he saw that these were the things that were wrong, and he decided, I'm just going to work on this. So how do we start to encourage young people to be intentional storytellers, to be part of this work in changing the narrative that already exists about Africa and putting us in just better light and better representation?
Awesome. I love the question, because while you were talking, I was just thinking about a lot of creators that I know on social media that use their platform to tell stories. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this handle, Diary of a Nigerian girl, Ife. I mean, Ife is good with stories. I mean, people send their stories. And Ife she's also a good storyteller, where she uses Twitter, she uses Instagram to tell stories, her story and other people's stories. New media is actually, or digital media is actually a very powerful tool to use as a medium to tell these stories and share stories like this. For those who are in the room and they're looking for how, or thinking of how they can actually maximize this platform, is to tell the stories. You can start with what is around you. So currently I have a story to tell, and the story is actually has to do with something that I just went through recently, and I can't wait to share the story, because I know that there are a lot of women in their 30s or 40s who are also in that position or in that era, and they will need to hear from someone who has actually gone through that particular experience. And that's the thing about media. You'd always find things to talk about. It could be anything, depending on the level of how personal it is to you. Some people just talk, nah. But if you have like a direction, or you have you have you have an impact you want to create in the lives of people. That impact is very important, and that would also help you to, see more, know more, and even hear from other people who are also going through maybe a particular experience that you might not even know. For a lot of people, I'm sure you guys would have known that, some people some people are dealing with, some women, not people. So there's an audience. So the audience is for women. Some women are dealing with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And they don't even know how to go about it. They don't even know how to care for themselves. They don't even know where to go to or where to find information. And that's what I'm using the platform I created, Elder Living with Tosin, to talk about. And just this month I had surgery where I removed the fibroids, I also removed the cysts, and I can't wait to share the story of the whole entire process, from the procedure to post-surgery, which is what I'm still saying here, to post-surgery, and even the things that I did to even make sure to get myself, better and all. And I know for sure that a lot of women out there dealing with this thing, but they don't know what to do. They don't know where to find information from, and that's the power you have as a writer, the power you have as a storyteller, because you have a medium or you have a platform like social media. It could be it could be a WordPress platform, it could be your website, it could be your Twitter, it could be any other platform, or even LinkedIn that you can use to talk about these stories, and someone will definitely find you. That means you're creating a solution for someone else who is out there, who, maybe someone saw the story or read the story and then shared with someone they know that is in need for that particular thing. So I'm using myself as an example because that's exactly what is going on, and I can't really wait to share the story and also create impact, create part of solution, creation, to create solutions for women. Because one thing I learned after surgery is the meals you eat, the type of meals you eat, the lifestyle change entirely is, sis, I cannot wait. So just make sure that you do the right thing and, create that impact and, share these stories on the platform. And of course, to definitely go viral. I mean, these stories to go viral. I'm not talking about my story, not because I'm sitting here, but there are a lot of stories I've seen on social media that go viral. Talking about Zikoko's platform, like I read the stories, the one they have, the carousel, that they share different stories. There's a lady on Twitter, on Instagram and Twitter. I think her handle is Momi_. I don't know if you guys know the lady's handle. There's a way she tells her stories that you can relate with it as a Nigerian, even if you are going through a difficult situation. There's a way she curates those stories that even in your downtime, you would definitely laugh at the end of the day. So the platform is out there, just do you, and I wish you all the best.
Interesting. I think to add to that, what kept coming to my mind as you were speaking is, we've said being authentic, being true to yourself, and what social media does, or what technology does, is that it gives you that space to decide what you want to do, right? Do I want to use humor, right, to address these issues? Someone else could be addressing the issues you talked about and decide to just make it like comedy and make people laugh about it while addressing these serious issues. Another person could be like, I'm really just a serious person. I'm going to address these things in a serious way. So it gives you the liberty to decide who you are and how you want to deliver these things. But a question that comes to mind is, in addressing these issues through social media, through technology, through innovation, so while we're getting that to come back, let's just come back to you, Malik. So all of these things that you've been working on, apart from the Elder series, you said you've had other series. Do you find sometimes that you get stuck because you've gone viral? There's a lot of focus on virality, right? Because you've gone viral for these particular series, do you find that you're struggling to go out of it because it's brought you so much attention? So you're now almost afraid because you find that more and more people are now known for these things, a particular thing, a particular concept, and it's difficult for them to go out of it or come up with new ideas, new concepts. So do you find yourself ever struggling to come up with newer ideas because this brought you some sort of fame?
That's a good question, and I would say I'm lucky enough that before I went viral, I understood the bubble of social media and the pressure that a creator could be to get stuck. So a few years ago, I always have to post something on Instagram every time, a new video, a new this, to show that I'm working, to get more clients, all of that. Then I realized that I get good comments, but I didn't have clients on Instagram. You know, I had friends, I had people that like my work, but not good paying clients. I said, I need to figure this out and sort it out. Then I said, you know what, I need to stop, first of all, step away from the pressure and say, if I work or I don't work, some people know my skills already, let me stop posting. I stopped posting on Instagram, I just stopped. And I started posting on LinkedIn because I felt like, okay, the kinds of people I'm trying to attract are on LinkedIn. These are industry owners, CEOs, and all of that. Then when I started posting on LinkedIn, I saw the difference between my client base. It literally in 3 months, I started going from the 3 million naira to the 10, 20 million for my commercials. Because now I was having serious conversations, not with some agencies that want to cut you or do what, because you're on Instagram. That was already there for me. So I didn't really care about if I was posting or not on Instagram because I was already making money out of that. I knew my client. So when I went viral, I'm not a very good social media person. I don't like that. I don't know about my life, not about my work, but not my life. That's the kind of person I am. So when it went viral, even to me, it didn't get to me as it got to people around me. To me, it was just part of the process. It was something. What I was happy about were things that came after. The real world usage, the clients that I got, the conversations that I was speaking to celebrities in Hollywood. Last year, I used to watch films on Marvel, Blade. I had Malik at marvelstudio.com. I'm like, me. Stuff like that, you know. I'm like, how is this even possible? And
You can go ahead and clap.
No, it's fine. That's how I felt. So I was focused more on the real world, like how can I use this to value myself rather than keeping up. I have many other series I've never released because I didn't want it to be about the virality or I'll lose focus because I know where I'm going to. Before I went viral, I knew where I was going to, and that's still where I'm headed. So this is still part of my journey. So even when I post 1 or 2 things, I don't expect it to go viral, just as an addition to what I do or something new, because I get questions, what are you doing next? What are you doing? I'm like, wait till next year. Let me just explore everything I have to do this year first. It's a phase. So that's how I no pressure for me, yeah.
Oh yeah, I do, because very different. Okay, I would say for us, it's also a very interesting question because a lot of the stories that we put out, projects as well, tend to go viral. I think we now have at least 1 story a month blows up the internet, right? But it's interesting, because it's a business, and also we have audacious goals, even with all of this virality, where we need to get to, right? Our approach is a bit of a balance, like make people happy, but do the things that are important to you as well. And so we would have like an SEO play. We're heavy on SEO right now, still taken from the ethos, which is that we create joyful content, delight the audience, right? Still taken from that, still with the most important thing for us, for everything that we do, is that there is some form of value. And so this story might not be viral, but it could be a PCOS project that helps a ton of women and brings them into your community, and then you can share other stuff with them. So there is a balance, a big play that involves, you know, how to bring in your community, how to make your board and your sponsors happy, but how to make sure that, because I work with a team of creatives, it's in my bio, it's very important because they do all of the work. And so what that means is you don't want them to lose their authenticity, you don't want them to lose the thing that makes them create by making it all about numbers. And so we have number goals and we have different editorial plays to make sure we hit those numbers. But at the core of it, what's important is the actual stories that we tell, and making sure that we're working on things that we find cool and interesting as well.
Amazing. Ifelua, what are your thoughts?
Seems the mic doesn't like me. Yeah, so at EMC, we have the ethos of we, as Africans, being people who actually like to reshaping a narrative whereby we are the people, instead of the narrative that, okay, we Africans only consume technology, but we actually, create technology also. So that's always been our ethos. So of all our projects we've always done, it's always been about advancing storytelling using VR, advancing storytelling using AR, advancing using those technologies. So it has never gotten to us about that, about like we are stuck or something like that. It's because there's so many things to do, so many areas to explore. The technology is very broad, it's very wide. There are new things going on in software space, hardware space. How do we merge these things together? So like it's just a myriad of things to do. So there's never that feeling of being stuck. We just want to work,
In trying to create, though, do you ever say to yourselves, we need something that will go viral? Do you sit down and make that your goal? Like, what can we create that will go viral, that, everybody will love, and we don't care about what it represents, we just want it to be very popular? Do you ever?
I don't think so. I don't want to be like, we're like be so virtuous and all like that. But there's so much ethics, in quotes, in what that we do. And I'm not saying that it's not ethical to care about virality. But as an organization, I think our first goal has always been to tell responsible stories, is to be responsible with technology. Because also seeing ourselves as first movers in this field, what we'll do will actually ring through, coming generations and all like that. So as first movers in this new technology, we want to be as responsible as possible, and do it properly so that the things we do now would have a positive impact, on the future use of technology.
Can I add? So I want to add that focus on virality, I think, is never a good idea or a good side. I mean, Olori has spoken about being authentic. Usually what tends to happen is that you find the people that the content that you do works for. And so I think it's a lot more useful for creators to actually think about this from what is the value of this thing I'm doing, and why will people engage with it? Because when you say if your goal is virality, then you don't care about the quality of the engagement. But when you're thinking, what is the value of this and why would anyone be interested, you're a lot more conscious of how it comes out. You're a lot more conscious of the language. You're a lot more conscious of the quality of the content itself. And by asking that question, you actually answer the virality bit about it, because what makes people engage? It's emotions, shock, happiness, joy, relatability, nostalgia. All of these things can come into play in your work by just asking what is the value, rather than will this go viral.
Okay, so I think we'll just take one more question. We'll just go around with our answers to a question, and then we'll open up the floor to questions and answers rather. So as we go about telling these authentic African stories, how do we avoid telling monolithic or idealized, like Chimamanda would say, the danger of a single story? How do we avoid that so that we can represent the multiple voices and multiple cultures and multiple representations of Africa?
Okay. Okay. I think I've forgotten my answer. How do we avoid telling the single story? I think this, on some level, also goes back to Olori's earlier point when she was talking about what kind of stories to get into when you have a social media and you want to use it for narratives. I think at the core of everything that people do is, on one level, get into it from this is my community, these are the stories that I know. By the time you tell a story from your perspective, he tells a story from his perspective, she tells a story from her perspective, we have a conglomerate of stories to work with, and different perceptions, different ideas or angles come into play, and people can actually come to better narratives being set. I would now hand off over to you.
Okay, so I'll respond so that I don't lose my train of thought. So talking about the question in terms of not getting one-sided story and getting other stories, I'll go back to the story I shared earlier, which was a news we broke in 2016, and that story, opened up other stories. So it went beyond the student that was affected at this said school, but it now went as far as alumni of that school who were in their 30s at that time, or maybe they were married, calling us, reaching out to us, telling us that they went through the same experience from this particular teacher. And that actually, helped us more with, the report we got. So, okay, so let me just give you a quick background talk on when it comes to cases that are very sensitive, when it comes to domestic violence or sexual violence or all of those things. I worked with Esther Ijewere of Work Against Rape 2008, 2009. So I had experience of parents reporting someone in their compound who has molested maybe their daughter or something. We've had cases where we've been to Alausa, we've met with the Commissioner of Women Affairs. So I've seen cases like that whereby when it comes to minors, when it comes to kids, when it comes to children, you don't just jump, in telling those stories. You have to do due diligence. You have to do your work, do your research. So that was the experience I had that helped us with the story we broke in 2016. And that was what actually helped us to stay put, stand on our foot to say, no, this story was not made up because, they said we made it up, we did this. They said a lot of things. So when that story broke and everything went from what it was to a bigger thing, we had people calling us, parents, old students, reaching out to us, telling us, sharing their own experiences from what they went through from that particular person. So, and that's just one experience, though. But if you look at other things that happen or that are happening in Nigeria when it comes to maybe a bomb blast or something happened or whatever, you hear eyewitness stories. You want to hear from someone who was there or who experienced it. And for us, we also receive images, videos or images from people who would say, oh, I was at this particular place when it happened. Now, verifying that the person was truly there, we have to also go through, we also have to do, we have to have questions for that particular person. How did you get the image? Were you there? Ask certain questions even before accepting it. Because people can actually put you in trouble just because they want you to publish or they want you to do this. So we do a lot of research, we do a lot of questioning, even from people who send us stories. We don't just jump on anything we see, and that's what we even tell our team members at OSG, that you don't just jump on anything because this person has published it does not mean that you need to publish it. And there's something in the media industry where they feel that the bigger platforms, when they publish those stories, yes, they got it right, so you have to now publish it, and that has put us in trouble several times. I mean, if you are working in the media, please make sure you have your lawyers, because you can get into trouble anytime, no matter what it is. So it's very important to take notes of that.
One key thing that I'm getting from everything that you said is that even as a media organization, right, I think the goal or the interest in going viral or being the first to say something can make you report wrongly,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But I also want to say that it's not only on you as a media organization, even as an individual. I think you need to verify stuff before you post. You don't just see stuff and then hurry to repost because you're itching to be the first person to say this thing. Oh, this person died. Oh, I said it first. Oh, this thing happened. So I think that we all owe it to ourselves and to the whole story, telling the story of Africa. We all owe it to ourselves to do the work, right? Because everything that we're putting out comes together to form the narrative. Everything that we're putting out represents Africa. Somebody somewhere in another continent, somebody somewhere in another part of the world, is going to run into your content and perceive Africa through those things that you've posted. So I think we all owe it to ourselves to be intentional. Malik, you wanted to say something before Tosing?
No, it's really just to sum up what everybody has said here. And if you're telling a universal story, yes, cultures are different, everything is different, but something stands out, which is empathy. If it's from a place of empathy, it's more universal. Everybody can relate to it. And you, the storyteller, are telling it from a place that you actually understand. You're not just telling it for telling's sake, like you said. You know, you empathize, you understand, and you're telling factual things based off the understanding. So empathy plays a big role in that universal. That's, yeah.
Fantastic. Ifeoluwa, do you want to say something before we open the floor?
Okay, I think going back to what you said, it's about doing the work, because you need to be aware that Nigeria, Africa is it's not a monolith, right? It's a very diverse place. Even the Yoruba place, the Southwest, there are so many, there's so many dialects, so many languages, so many cultures, even just within this small Yoruba place, So it's being open to doing the work, that it takes to actually document those different stories, those different aspects of it. For instance, I think probably could even, because there's actually an AI technology that allows you to actually, okay, let's say you're dancing, right? I take a video of you dancing and I process it in the AI application, and I can then use the animation, your dance animation, as for a 3D model that I created. So using those kind of things, now you can imagine going to a festival in different parts of Nigeria and documenting those dances, right? And then being able to digitize it, and you are therefore creating a library of authentic and very non-monolithic cultures, different parts of Nigeria. So it's actually being down to doing the work and being aware and being putting in the back of your mind that we're so different people. We are different people,
Tell a story. Okay, fantastic. Please give our speakers a rousing round of applause. So the floor is open now. We'll take questions. I believe we have questions for them. Okay. Can we have someone take the mic around, please?
Okay. My question is...
Please introduce yourself so we know who's speaking.
I am Daniel Adiagbo. I'm a writer. So my question is there entrepreneurial thinking around your choice of endeavor? Because I believe even if you are doing something of impact, if it's not making money, even if it's good, it might not be sustainable. We call it impact and profit. So is there entrepreneurial thinking around your choice of endeavor? Thank you.
Beautiful question, actually. Yeah.
In mine, yes, I'm a businessman. I have to make money. I have to pay my bills. So everything I think of value, I think of problem solving, I think of how to make money. So I create industries, I create products, I use technology to create many things. I have 3 clothing lines, and all the 3 clothing lines are doing 3 different things. AI is the main player of that. I have where I sell my pictures and exhibitions around the world as well. So, but I had to create our value. So even apart from everything I am doing, I make sure I have product that I'm selling, that I'm not hungry on the street. And make sure that also what I'm doing is unique enough for you to want to buy into it. So, and there's that to it, there's the bigger side to it as well, where I work with industries, create solutions for them, make them understand why I'm valuable. So, for instance, some people might hate this, photographers, there are many companies right now that don't want to do photography anymore. They're going straight to the AI to create images for their branding. And that is the future. So if I was a photographer, I would put myself in a position where I'm creating those images for them rather than getting someone else to do it. So if I don't want to take pictures, I can now create those. So I'm ready for it. So everything you're doing, you have to find ways to create value. And when there's value, there's always money, trust me. Yeah.
I think it should. Are you, okay. All right. Are you fine with that answer? For us, there's business thinking. It's a business first. And so remember the bit I said about balancing, making sure that we're doing original content editor in the in-house, but also, doing the work of diversification, working through meeting our audiences, SEO, and a lot of other factors that come into play to make sure that we do hit the business goals as well. So you have to find that balance. If what you're doing currently isn't working, it could be collaboration to reduce the cost so that you keep at it if that's something you really want to do. And it could be storytelling to elevate the game of, you're a writer. So it could be storytelling. How do you position yourself with the marketing of it and then I guess you then have to set like business goals for yourself to help you, get better or actually hit the money bits. Yeah.
So to add to what she said, one of the things that we're very passionate about at the Creative Economy Practice at CC Hub is the business side of things for creatives, right? So we find that a lot of creatives just think, oh, I'm a musician, I'm just interested in my passion for music. I just want to write music. I just want to sing. I just want to perform. I don't want to be bothered about the business side of things, but you have to be concerned about the business side of things because your passion and your talent can only get you so far. After some time, you will get frustrated when you're not able to pay bills. So you have to think of the business side of things. It's very important as a media person, as a young person, as a creative. Yeah, you have to, you must. So there has to be that balance. Yeah, so any other questions?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kurdi. I'm an XR creator. So basically, my question goes to Malik and Skodo Ife. So looking at this whole ecosystem, many investors, like looking at Nigeria ecosystem, right? They feel VR is something that's just coming up in Nigeria, basically, and yeah, it's very visible. So, so basically, a few months back, like I just introduced AI to the whole ecosystem to see how it can really work within the VR space. So my question now is, I feel because of the way the VR thing is just coming up, many people are not really putting their money into it. Right, but looking at AI attached to it, and yeah, I've tried to create some cool things. Looking at the way AI is and virtual reality, do you think it's something people will be coming to realize that, okay, yeah, VR is something we can invest our money in, something we can put a lot of billions into it and see how, because I feel if we can answer this question, like it would really give we developers, a great
let me use my experience. 6 years ago or 5 years ago, I went into Google to speak to them about virtual reality. I was preaching about virtual reality when we were still in the boxes, and they said to me that Nigeria is not ready for this right now. That's, but I didn't stop doing it. Whatever money I get, I would spend on camera, spend on technology, because I knew for a fact that if the rest of the world is spending this much money on this thing, there's a reason why they're doing it. And this tech is always growing. You're always finding something new come out. Why? It's growing. There's a forecast that is going up, not going down. And if you project in 2030, it's $1 billion industry. That was the reason why. So even if Nigeria was telling me that, I said that's their business. I kept on doing it regardless. So when it was time for me to do something, and I presented myself to do it, I was literally the only Nigerian that was part of the team where Meta sponsored for that project. I was ready. I didn't have to go and start doing anything or whatever. I was already there, And that being said, there is a gap in the market already. Nigeria has many stories. We have many things that are not covered yet. There are many things that virtual reality can help with, but they have to see it. That's the value you're going to create for them. So is it that you collaborate with other creators that have certain things to create for you, but find a project and make that project unique enough and show these people or put it out there, and this is what is possible. Sometimes they can't even see what's possible until they see it. They feel they know everything, but when you start showing them certain areas or things that, oh, wow, I could use this for this, I could use that for that, they start thinking that direction. But that also boils down to you not stopping what you're doing and knowing where you're going to with it and just keep going at it. Yeah.
All right. Also, I think Malik has said so many things, so I'll keep mine shorter. Also, when it comes to the infusion of AI to virtual reality, there are many ways to go about it. It's actually how you can and the usefulness of that is it helps cut down your development time. Building and developing for VR is very time consuming and very expensive, but it helps cut down development time, and that enables you to also have time to pitch to investors, and you can quickly, investors an idea, and okay, let me quickly prototype this for you and show you that these things are possible in VR, and AI could actually help you with that when it comes to like 3D models creation, when it comes to the music, when it comes to generating other kinds of assets, even when it comes to helping you create the gameplay, the storyline for your VR experience and all like that. Those AI can actually help you, you know, in those aspects, and it basically makes your creation time easier and simpler, and you can get more investors.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Lawrence Akande, and my Chinese name is Tachi. So I just, mine is not a question, but I just want to throw a challenge to all of us, because we've been talking about this industry, creative economy, right? And she said something about the narratives. Sometimes the way people see us as Africans, as Nigerians, we're actually the one that created that image. Because sometimes when I was in China, people ask me, have you ever seen a car before? And I told them, are you crazy? I have a car myself. Because the video or movies that they watch are Wizard, all these, Blood Money, all those stuff. So they see us. Actually, some African students that were there too, also they are scared of Nigeria. They told me that their parents said, when you see Nigeria, move away, because all of them are ritualists. And I said, see, I've never been to a Babalawo's place before, so I don't even know what they... So it's because of the narrative that we put there. And I want to cite some examples. I don't know, when I was doing my undergraduate, how many of us remember 24? That series, 24, yes. In that series, they presented the president as black man, right? Yes. And after some years, we have Obama as the president. So as creative people, we prophesy, we create what we want people to see. What future, how do you want people to see Africa? How do you want people to see Nigerians? For example, things might not be working right now. If you are creating a content, a movie, and you are presenting using the AR, using the creativity, to present Nigeria to the world because every community has the good and the bad. And I'll give you another example. If you listen to our music, in those days, we want to sing like the Americans. You remember Felicity Liberty and co. But you can't beat them in their games. But this day, what do? We bring out our African instrumentation. I will mix it with our Pidgin Yoruba language. And even in club houses in China, people dance to Nigerian music, even though they don't hear what we're saying, because of the creativity. We bring the music, okay, this is the form that the music has to follow universally. And we bring our language, our instrument into it, and they dance to it everywhere. Nobody criticizes that we are playing Gogon. Nobody criticized Davido that he sings in Pidgin or in Yoruba. They listen to it. They don't. I was in a conference in US, and I told them that Wizkid is a Nigerian. They said, are you sure? I said, yes. Because they enjoy the music. So the same thing we have to do, especially in the film industry. We have to present the best of Africa to people. I like the way you dress. I dress like this because it's official. Yes, let's present ourselves like authentic people so that people will respect us, not that they ask you as a newscaster, you want to tell a story about Nigeria, and your background is where they dump refuge. And that's what we are showing to the world. So what we are telling them that we are dirty. But there are beautiful places in Africa. Africa is beautiful. Yesterday I was watching a video of somewhere in, I think, Congo. Come and see beautiful scenery. And I always tell people that even in this Lagos, sometimes ago I was at University of Lagos, and at the back, there's something like a lighthouse. And I said, if I shoot a movie here, nobody will believe that it was shot in this place. We have beautiful places, but we don't tell our stories. So we are putting a challenge to us. When we want to create content, we can create content of how we want Nigeria to be, how we want people to perceive Nigeria, how do we want people to perceive Nigerians or Africans. That is the challenge I want to put to us, rather than just create something because the truth is that those people over there, they want you to tell bad story about us. That's what you pay for. But create something that let them know that, no, Nigeria is beautiful. There are beautiful places. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Travis, and my question is, so we see the discussions about how AI art specifically is unethical because because apparently it takes like real people's art made by like people with their real hands and then like generate something out of that, like without their consent or compensation. And I just want to ask how true that is, and if it is like, valid and true, like how do we solve these ethical concerns? Yes.
So yeah, it's very true. It's called scrubbing, and it's trained on billions of data without permission. But what I did, that's what I did with the Elder series. So the Elder series does not exist anywhere. It's not trained on anybody's data anywhere. I literally had to train it with my own data to understand. So that is also possible. So you could decide to create something with that neural network, or you could decide to create something entirely new. So it's you can say, I want to create a painting that looks like Van Gogh in Africa. It's to create it for you, but that's still Van Gogh in Africa. So how can you actually find something entirely new? That's the challenge, that's the hard part, and use that to train it and create it. So it's possible, and it's also true. Yeah.
Hello. My name is Adikemi Faturti. I'm with the team at MEC 3D, and I'm also a lawyer. So I have a question that talks about qualification. So there's some content creators, for example, Dr. Aproko, that does content about medicine. So are there some specific areas that you create content in that requires you to have some sort of qualification, so that by the time you speak, it's not like, where are you coming from? Have you studied? Do you know what you're, even if you've done your verification, your research, are there things like that? And then the other question is, for someone that is professionally trained, maybe you're not a creative originally, but now want to transition into it, how easy, what advice would you give them? What are the kind of connections or network they're supposed to build? And then my last question is, how do you put yourself in the shoes of your audience, especially when your audience is so diverse? How do you make sure that whatever content you are creating is speaking to each and every one of them in one way, shape, or form? That's my question.
Okay. All right. I'll just, because when I heard Aproko Doctor, I was like, okay, let me just respond. And I love your questions, particularly from content to qualification to community, then to community. So I think your last question has to do with community. You create the community that, you create a community where your audience can enjoy the content you are creating for them. This creative juice for creators can shoot up to like 100 and then come down like 0, and then everything here is just gone, and you're thinking, how can I get this inspiration back? We are all in. We get to that point, and we know how difficult it can be. Let me go back to your question one, Aproko Doctor. You use them as an example, which is very good. He's a medical practitioner, and he has found a way to use social media to tell us the things that we don't want to hear. He started from Twitter. It wasn't from Twitter, they would bash him. Who are you? You call yourself a doctor, da 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 da. And now he has moved to video content creation, the video quality, the content, the analysis using Emeka and Ikechi speaks to you. Because we are Nigerians, and that Emeka and Ikechi will touch you better than you, Yeri, Andrew, and Claudia. There will be a disconnect. So he found a way to tell you that, when you're buying Panadol for 2005, do you know that you can also do something to wear off that Panadol? Nkechi and Ngozi, Emeka and this thing, can you hear me? He's speaking the language you and I can understand, hence why that name got to you, and you mentioned Aproko Doctor. Now, social media, of course, has its own good side and bad side. Have you heard people on social media who come with their full chest and say they are therapists? I'm a certified therapist. Therapist for where? And then everything about you on Instablog or any platform, even you that as a creator, use bad story. And then you are giving counsel on social media about what relationships are not and what not. You know, so these things happen. You just need to receive through the whole information, you know, on social media to know what works for you and what the truth is. There are a lot of fake doctors out there too. You know, there are a lot of fake people out there. You know, but it depends on who you choose to listen to and where you get your fact from, and where you, even for most people who also get information on social media, do your research. If I sit down now and start talking about PCOS, they'll ask me, oh, am I a certified PCOS person and all? Those questions would come. But if I stay on my story, talking about my experience, talking about the things that I've done and all of that, you will listen to me because you need someone you need to relate with. Before you see a dietitian, before you see a nutritionist, before you see a doctor, before you get your life all together, you would have gone through different sessions. But now I've gone through all that experiences, and I'm sharing with you what works for me. So this is what works for me. And I'll give you a disclaimer in the video or in the content. I'm not saying this will work for you, but this is what works for me. So you just need to watch out for all of those things. I think I answered 2. I'll give someone else to do the last.
Okay. So I don't know, how many of us have watched Interstellar by Christopher Nolan? Okay, yes. Remember the amazing scene of the black hole, right? And just simulated and all like that. You know, what happened in the movie was that Christopher Nolan actually collaborated with Kip Thorne, who is a Nobel laureate in physics, right? To actually create, and as it was a consultant for the whole movie, but also very specifically for the simulation of that black hole scene. And some years later, when the black hole was finally, imaged, finally, it looked very, similar to what was in Interstellar. That's what I'm trying to say is collaboration. You might not be the person qualified for it, but you need to be you could collaborate with people who are very qualified in that field to actually bring out content. For instance, let's say Apricot Doctor wasn't famous yet, but you could collaborate with Apricot Doctor because you had the platform, and Apricot Doctor knows that, okay, this information is necessary for a wider audience and all like that. You collaborate with him, it gives you information, gives you content, and you spread it out, and the wider people can actually, wider audience can actually, have access to that information. So be open to collaboration with people.
What am I responding to? Which of the questions? Okay.
The one about qualifications in trying to create your content and all. Do you need to be qualified? Do you need to be certified to put out certain kind of content? She talked about communities as well. How do you reach out to a diverse community? If you have a community is made up or comprises diverse people.
Okay.
How do you?
And then the last one is how.
All 3. Yeah. Okay, let me start with the last one. You might have to remind me the rest. So how you are not, I don't think on some level, oh God, this is a room of creatives. I hope they don't burn me. But on some level, I don't think there really is, and I think I would ask a couple of creatives here, was there really, you get to some point and then you're like, oh wait, I'm a creative. But usually when you start out, it's you trying things. If the writer, you just started writing, right? I think that's it. There might be skills that you need in the various formats that it exists, right? If you are into pictures, you want to know how to use a camera. If you are into this, that you might have to learn skills. But usually at the onset, it tends to come from wanting to do a thing and then going to do it. One of my favorite writers at Zikoko, oh God, this is live. You're all my favorite writers. One of my favorite writers at Zikoko studied pharmacy, but he was really good with structure. Now he's an editor, right? At some point, it was, okay, maybe I don't want to pharmacy anymore. I won't try something else. It was good, right? But it still had to build skill over time. Your first draft is always going to be terrible. But what about your 100th? It's going to look very different. You consume. If anyone has that problem, just first of all, what do you want to do? Is it to write? Is it to do videos on social media? Who do you like? Why do you like them? Ask questions like that. Consume their content. If you can reach out to those people, reach out to them, talk to them about their processes, and then be very fine with doing rubbish, because you will do rubbish for some time and then you get better over time and then you find your voice. Sometimes you copy some people's voices for like 3 months and then it adds something to your own flavor. Like, that's the process. Like, there's no other, I don't think if there's any other way, please let me know right now. But I think that's it. What's the second question? I'm glad that you said certain points, because I think on some level you might need to. Now, I would use the PCOS piece or project as an example. She's going to write from the perspective of someone that has gone through this, that has experienced this, and a perspective depending on also the content format, because if she decides to do an expository piece, she will most likely be talking to professionals, right? So I think it's heavily dependent on the story itself, the subject as well, but you can always walk through that with stuff like collaboration, and other things can come into play. But yeah, but you cannot talk from the perspective of a pharmacist or a physician if you aren't one. You can get them in your story though. Okay, all right.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Frances. I'm a student at Pan Atlantic University. I have two things. One is more of a statement, the second is a question. So in addition to the changing narratives as a creator, I feel a really big thing for me is pushing an agenda for children, teenagers, young adults like us. And that agenda has to do with making us embrace our culture a lot. So that when we express ourselves online, when we create content, we're expressing ourselves. We're not just regurgitating what we have adapted from mainstream media. We are expressing ourselves authentically because we know our culture, we love our culture, and we're expressing our culture. I think that's a really big thing for me, because I don't know if anyone has seen the video by, is it Ni Fagbemi? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. That yeah, thank you. When I saw that video, I got chills because it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful, and I feel that's kind of thing that, at a young age, you want to try and embrace generally. The second thing is a question. So I'm not sure. I saw something about some months ago, a bill that was supposed to, like, government related now, a bill for the creative economy. Just I don't know the progress on that yet. But do you think that would be a positive or a negative thing for the creative economy generally? A bill and laws and regulations and things like that.
Okay. Can I respond to your first point? I've been thinking about this since our able gentleman over there talked about, our perspectives and how made that point about how narratives have to be set by us. I have a slightly, I guess I would turn this a bit. I don't know if I can say I would refine it a bit. This also ties to what we believe in at BCM, because our approach is actually not to write for a global audience. It's to write stories that appeal to us. And so, but do it so well that the global audience is interested. And I think it ties into this idea. Farafina is a publication house, Kachifo, that does this really well, where they write children's books that feel Nigerian. I grew up on I grew up on her books and a bunch of all the US and UK guys, HarperCollins, all of them. And I really struggled with visualizing a lot of things that they would say, balustrades, what is that? But if you tell me balcony, if you tell me outside, if you tell me playground, if you tell me backyard, but cemented backyard, not apparently they do grass over there. Like, what are those things, right? When I found Farafina's children's books, I was very excited. These are very tiny 1K, 500 Naira books, but I was so excited because the stories were so original, the language so original, and so language is a very important tool in how we tell these stories. I would say my proposition is that we do tell stories that are positive. We focus a lot more on how we are actually thriving. Last year, I worked with a bunch of creatives at Vistanium, and we launched the 100 Good Project. And it's 100 stories from Africa, right, across Africa, but 100 really good stories that will take us to the next level. It's doing things like that, right, but also doing it in a way that appeals to the common person behind you, because that collective narrative needs to be shared by all of us. And so what does it look like if everyone is in this system, everyone is synced and ready to go? The global audience will have no option but to respond to that. But now I've forgotten your second question.
I think she said something about the bill, and is it a good thing?
What is this bill?
So, but I think it's a general question she was asking about, you know, if as creatives, we need policies and bills and all of that. And I think I want to respond to that. Okay. If you want to say something, I can add afterwards.
Okay. You know what? I think I will leave it to you.
Okay. What I would say is, for the growth and development that we constantly seek within the creative industries, right? It can't be done independently. We can't do it on our own as creatives, right? So we need policies, we need bills, but it's now in the execution, you know. Does the government understand the creative industries, right? There's some research projects that we're involved in, right? These research projects are supposed to help advise policies that would make things better. So we gather a group of creatives and creative practitioners in a room, and we're asking them these questions so that, you know, the policies that will be made, the decisions that will be made are data-driven, right? They're evidence-based, so that it's not government just waking up and saying, I think that we should pass this bill. You know, they actually would have conversations with creatives to ask them what is needed, what has been wrong, how can we right it, what can we do to help you make that space better, you know. So I don't think that bills and policies are bad. I just think that it's in the execution, at the right conversations being had, at the right questions being asked before these bills are set and passed and these policies are made. I think that's what I wanted to say. Does anybody want to add anything?
No, you're correct. And the unfortunate truth is that they still don't understand the creative. I was in Abuja recently for the roundtable that Shetima organized, and they had a roadmap for 2024. And so sorry, it was live stream. I can't say what I was going to say. But yeah, you understand what I mean. So, and that was a conversation we're having there, that what you guys are doing is still 10 years old. We're not there yet. Because the people that are bringing these policies and the roadmap don't even understand the industry. So they need key players from people in the industry to do that for them. But we're not there yet. So if they want to create anything, it's not going to help us right now. So except we are active players in that space. Yeah.
But I'm glad that the journey has begun. So
yeah.
there are all these conversations being had. Hello. So there are all of these conversations being had. There are all of these meetings, you know, gatherings. Okay, let's bring you all together and have this conversation. So the journey has begun. It's a good thing, you know, as opposed to complete silence and seeming disconnect with the government, you know. So it's a start. Yeah, a final one, and we'll close. But the room will be open for networking and all of that so that you can have conversation. Unless you want us to go ahead till 3, because we're supposed to close the question and answer session by 2:30. So if we're all in agreement, okay, so we'll just take one last question, and then we'll open the room for networking. You can meet either of us for one-on-one conversations and these questions, and we can discuss further. Yeah, so.
I guess what I want to ask is very simple. So right now we are saying, yes, there are, we need policies, we need bills that will enable the creative industry. So the question is, are we actually ready? If these bills come, if these policies come, do we have the collaborative mindset to actually put these things together? Because the way I see it, there's a lot of discord in the creative industry. There's a lot of competition, a lot of drama. Yeah? So the question is, when those policies come, when those bills come, are we actually ready to come together and actually make it happen?
Is that a rhetorical question or an actual?
The question,
It felt like a point.
because see, we have the media here, we have so many heavyweights and people like major stakeholders here. So I want to know. I'm curious. So
I would say mine is is the fear of gatekeeping. So the gatekeepers, if we still have the same kind of gatekeepers, then we're in trouble. But if not, if it's a bill that affects everybody, then I think it's necessary. But when I say gatekeepers, they're still very much present. So these conversations so let me speak a little bit about the roundtable. They were talking about just Nollywood and just very popular actors, forgetting that the creative industry is an actual industry with everybody, with art, with design, with a lot of that. So we understood that people don't even know what it. Sorry, I'm very particular about how I'm talking because I know how it goes on. So the truth is, if we keep on with that, if things are not passed down, like up, down, not down, up, whatever, we're in trouble. So we need it, but certain things have to put into place for us to actually, work around it. That's what I feel.
While we're getting his mic.
Okay. I would say, how do I respond to this? Okay. I know for a fact that something we do is try to make sure that we actually highlight creators in general. We've done it through a bunch of projects. We've done it with, we had a creators actually, it was called Creators, where we would highlight people just because they were doing interesting work and not because they were popular. And that actually feeds into everything that we do. So I would say, first of all, if you're a creator here and you have a good story, you can always pitch us. You can send us a message on social media and someone will respond with an editor's email that you can then contact. I think for us media guys, there is definitely that work in making sure that I think I'm now responding to the gatekeeper's point in making sure that as much as we can, these conversations outside of the popular guys are had, because it then gives the creator economy actually a chance to survive. So that's the response to your point. Now, so the one about the bills and the policies, I think the bills and the policies, we need to define them. I think we need to all approach it from a perspective of this can change the game, and so we need it to, rather than, oh, well, when it gets to us, we'll figure it out. I'm glad you were in that room, and I'm sure you told them that, what's all this? And that's one place they can start, right?
Did I?
Did you?
That's a good question.
But I also think there is the point Blessing made earlier, which is, this is a 0 to 1. Now, I am very glad that you are very critical about this activity. The Nigerian government has not been known to actually get into these things with collaborate. They might have the right intentions, I'm not sure, I'm not in that room. But, the execution might suffer. But I would treat it as a work in progress. This is the first of it. We can lay criticisms. When there are people in the room, it also gives a chance for reviews and to get better. The 0 to 1, I think, across life is usually very dirty. And then when you get from your 1 to your 100, is when it starts to make sense. So let's see how this goes.
Okay. I'm sort of in agreement with your point. My philosophy, I believe very decentralized, in a very decentralized system. However, I know that most times you can't change things individually, right? So I'm more of, okay, so let's say the individual is here, the government is here. I'm more of, what about somewhere here? So probably like the industry coming together to self-regulate, to self-regulate themselves. Then the government should provide just basic things, and that's what we need. I think just in the basic thing, because I'm also scared about the fact of government bills and bills because of, I'm scared of regulation. I'm scared of my freedom of speech being stifled in the name of a bill that because nothing comes for nothing, you know. In the bills, there will be things that you'll be taking from you. Some was like, I think things should be probably done on the more, middle level. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, so that's.
Okay. Okay. So that brings us to the end of this conversation. But I mean, it hasn't really ended because we'll just formally or officially close. But the room will be open for networking. I think we have some finger foods and drinks for everyone. Networking, please walk up to any of the speakers, say hi, ask your questions, get someone's number, meet somebody in the room, because a seeming or an upcoming or emerging creative or media person in the room is probably going to be the Minister of Culture, Arts and Culture tomorrow. So get somebody's number and grow together and collaborate and do stuff. To close, I think some of the key points that were mentioned today, authenticity, being true to yourself in using media, innovation or technology to tell stories, be your authentic self, know who you are, find who you are first before you get lost in technology and social media and virality. Find who you are and express that. I think there was also mentioned at the very beginning during Malik's presentation about Hollywood and agenda and intentionality. These guys are very intentional about sowing seeds when they put out their work. So I think we should all begin to think that way, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, as a blogger, as somebody who's a banker but has a social media account. What am I putting out? How am I being intentional about that? Because all of that contributes to the narrative that goes out about Africa. To also touch on something, I think the question you asked about having a diverse community or audience, it's one of the things that we have here. We have audiences, our audience is Pan-African, so we have audiences from all over Africa, and we have a space, an outlet in Namibia, we're in Nairobi, Kenya as well, we're in Rwanda, so we have all of these audiences. So how do we reach out to them and speak in a language that everybody connects with? Is creativity really. For this event, we're duplicating it. So next week, this exact event is happening in Nairobi, Kenya, with the same theme. Of course, not these speakers, because the speakers are Nairobi-based in media, technology, innovation, so we replicated this same thing in Nairobi, and we'll be live streaming as well. So if you're not following us, please follow us. So that you can, benefit from these programs. Our programming also falls under 4 pillars. So we do a lot of research. We also do community and ecosystem development. So we have fun events that we run from time to time. We also do investment readiness. So we have incubators and accelerators that you can benefit from. So all of this work, if you follow us, we're on social media as CC Hub Creative. Am I correct? Tobilola, please, can you help us with that? CC Hub Creative, yes, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. You can follow us everywhere. You can send us an email, info@cchubcreativeeconomy.africa. Am I missing anything else? Okay. I want to say a huge thank you while we close. I want to say a huge thank you to our partners, Emisi 3D, for giving us amazing XR experience today. If you haven't already experienced it, please, that's what this session is going to be about now. Networking, experiencing XR, having your small chops and drinks. So I want to say thank you to them, amazing partners. Also want to say thank you to Africa No Filter, amazing, amazing partners. They've been funding some of our community and ecosystem activities and events like this one. So we want to say a huge thank you to them. And we're going to be sharing, we'll send you an email, thank you email for attending after you leave here. And we're going to put some links to amazing content that they have that you can benefit from as storytellers and as people in the media and all of that. I also want to say a big thank you to all of you for coming out and being part of this amazing conversation. You've been an amazing audience. Please give yourselves a rousing round of applause. I also want to say thank you to our amazing speakers. Thank you, Malik. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Feolua. Thank you, Luatosin. You guys were amazing. Please meet them after we close so that you can have conversations and take pictures with them. So thank you. We're officially closed.
Thank you to you.
Oh. You're welcome. welcome. So we'll just take pictures. We'll take pictures, the speakers will take pictures, and then we'll also take pictures with the PAU students and everybody else in the room who wants to take pictures with us. Yeah, so